Finding equivalent fractions. In this video, we will learn how to find equivalent fractions through the use of multiplying or dividing the fraction by different forms of 1. Background knowledge. When the numerator and denominator are the same, the fraction equals 1 whole, or 1. Allison has 3/4 of a pan of brownies to share with her friends. What is another way for Allison to represent 3/4? Our picture shows 3/4 shaded. If Allison wants to have more pieces, but smaller pieces, she can take each of the pieces and cut them into more pieces, essentially multiplying how many pieces she has. For example, let's say Allison splits each piece into 2. She will be multiplying the number of shaded pieces by 2 and multiplying the number of pieces it takes to make the whole by 2. Let's see what that would look like. We want to make sure that we also cut the missing piece into 2 so that we'll be able to see how many pieces it takes to make the whole. Remember, we took the shaded pieces and we multiplied it by 2, and we multiplied how many pieces it takes to make the whole by 2. 2/2 is just another way to write 1. So 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8, and we have 6/8. We can see from the picture that 3/4 and 6/8 covers the same area of the pan of brownies, and 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. Let's look at another way that Allison could split the pan. She has the 3/4, and this time let's split each piece into 3 pieces. This time the pieces will become even smaller because there will be more to make the whole. She splits the first piece, the second one, the third one, and the missing one. So basically, she took each piece and multiplied it by 3. She multiplied how many we have shaded by 3, but also how many it takes to make the whole by 3. We will have more pieces, but the pieces will be smaller. And remember, 3/3 is another way to write 1. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 3 is 12. 9/12 covers the same area as 3/4, so they are equivalent. We can also find equivalent fractions by combining or grouping pieces together so that we have fewer but larger pieces. Nathan is working on his math homework. His teacher assigned him 20 math problems. After a few minutes, Nathan's mom asked him, what fraction of problems has he completed? Let's let the diagram represent the problems Nathan was assigned. The shaded portion represents the questions Nathan had completed when his mother asked him. At this point, Nathan has completed 4 out of the 20 problems, or 4/20th of the assignment. Now, for us to use division to create an equivalent fraction, it means that we're going to take some of the problems and put them into groups. And we need them to be even groups. So when we are grouping the completed problems, we're not going to mix up the completed with the uncompleted. And we need to have it grouped together in such a way that we do not have any remainders. So let's look at the numbers 4 and 20. 4 being how many are shaded, 20 being how many is in the whole assignment. And we want to find a number to group them by so that we can group all 4 evenly and we can group all 20 evenly. So let's think about 4. We can make 4 with 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. So the factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4, which means that 4 can be divided evenly by those numbers. Let's look at 20. We can make 20 by multiplying 1 times 20, 2 times 10, and 4 times 5, which means that we can divide 20 by those numbers. Let's see what they have in common. They have 1, 2, and 4 in common. And let's choose 2 to group ours by, because it is one of the factors they have in common, and 2 is an easy number to work with. So we're going to make groups of 2. I grouped 2 of the completed problems together in a group. I grouped 2 of the completed problems together, the other 2, into a group. And now I have to do the unfinished problems the same way. So you can see that all of the problems have been put into groups. You can probably tell what the new fraction will be, the equivalent fraction from that. Let's take out some of the lines so that we can see it easier. You can already tell what the equivalent fraction is from the picture, but let's see how we would do it with math. So the first thing we did, remember, is we grouped the problems into groups of 2, the completed ones. So we divided 4 by 2, and then we had to take all 20 so that we know how many it takes to make the whole, and we're dividing it by 2. And then we're going to have 2, because 4 divided by 2 is 2, and we can see 2 boxes that are shaded. And then 20 divided by 2 is 10, and we can see there are 10 total boxes. So at this point, Nathan has completed 2/10 of his problems, and it also means that 4/20 is equivalent to 2/10. After a few more minutes, Nathan's mom asked him what fraction of problems has he completed. At this point, Nathan has completed 16 out of the 20, or 16/20 of the assignment. We're going to use the same type diagram. Shaded means the ones he's completed. Unshaded are the ones he has not. And let's take and think about these numbers. So we have 16 and 20. Let's think about the factors of 16. We can multiply 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. So the factors for 16 are 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16, which means 16 can be divided evenly by all of those numbers. We already did 20. There they are again. And let's think about what they have in common again. 1, 2, and 4. This time, let's go with 4. It's the greatest factor they have in common, otherwise known as the greatest common factor. You might even hear it called GCF, greatest common factor. So this time we're going to put the questions in groups of 4. So here's our diagram again, and let's put them into groups of 4. So we have 4 of the completed questions grouped, the next 4 are grouped, the next 4 grouped, the next 4 grouped, and then the last 4, which are the unfinished problems, are grouped together. Take away those lines, and we can see we have 4/5. Let's see how we would do that with numbers. So we have 16/20. So remember, we're grouping them by 4. So we're dividing the 16 by 4, and then we're dividing the 20 by 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 16/20 is equivalent to 4/5. Notice it's covering the same area. We have fewer but larger pieces. After watching this video, you should have a better understanding of how to find equivalent fractions through multiplying or dividing the fraction by forms of 1. If you need to see the examples again, you may watch the video as often as you would like. If after watching the video several times, you still do not feel comfortable finding equivalent fractions, please let your teacher know.